The Seneca Falls Convention of 1848, or the Hen Convention as the press called it at the time, is often cited as the beginning point of the women's suffrage movement in the United States. The result of the discussions was the issuance of a declaration promising to work towards the equality of rights for women. It was at this convention that Stanton declared that improvement in women's rights and social status would never come about until women had the vote. That was the beginning of the battle for suffrage, which would last over 70 years.
I'm Marcia Young. I am currently the branch president of the American Association of University Women. I've been with AAUW since 2013, and since then I've just grown to love this organization more and more and more. This year has been a really special year because we decided to partner with the League of Women Voters, La Plata County, to celebrate, honor, recognize the centennial anniversary of women's suffrage, of the 19th Amendment. Of course, it has gone on and on and on since then and continues, but that was a real marking point for, if you look at the amendment did not exclude anyone. It was others' actions along the way that excluded people. For example, Zitkala Sa, Native American suffragist who was part of women of color that were suffragists and fighting for women's rights all around.
Hi, this is Tiffany Lee Parker, your La Plata County Clerk and Recorder, and I'm here today to celebrate women's suffrage. And what an awesome event that we're at, and I'm just so proud of this community for everything they have done to rally and celebrate 100 years of women voting. As your county clerk, obviously I fight very hard to protect and ensure your voting rights, and I'm pretty passionate about it. I strongly believe in ensuring that Colorado voters and across the United States get the opportunity to cast their vote easily and to ensure the integrity of it as well. So we're very much about the security of your vote and about being able to be accessible. So today I want to encourage you to register to vote. You can do a paper form, or you can go online to govotecolorado.gov. It's very simple, and you can register to vote. You receive your mail ballot. If you choose not to use a mail ballot, you can still come in person as well. So in Colorado, we have a lot of different options. We also don't have registration deadlines. So we have been able to completely reform election law in Colorado to ensure, again, that all voters get the opportunity to vote.
I'm Marilyn Sandstrom. I'm a member of the American Association of University Women and the League of Women Voters of La Plata County. I moved to Durango in 2006, and within a few months I joined both of those organizations. The League of Women Voters does education of the voters and promotion of voting rights. AAUW, American Association of University Women, works for equity for women and girls. And a year ago in April, when Trish and I were working at the city election, we talked about the anniversary coming up and we made plans.
Hi, my name is Haley Kirkman. I'm a local artist and freelance graphic designer in Durango, Colorado. I'm also the executive director of the Durango Creative District. I became involved with the American Association of University Women in 2017 when they had sent me to represent Fort Lewis College in Washington, D.C. at the National Women's Conference. Since then, I've kept up with them and have become a member of the American Association of University Women and was commissioned to do the design for the centennial of women's suffrage in the United States. It was a huge honor to be able to do this design, and I'm honored to see the posters, yard signs, and t-shirts all around Durango.
My bag is a special bag. It has newspapers. You know, the New York Times in 1920 cost 2 cents, but because there's a coin shortage, we won't charge you today. My bag is the newspaper bag. And the newspaper is made up of articles that came from women in AAUW and League of Women Voters, and information about registering to vote, along with membership contacts to connect. But that's what we decided to do with sharing information. Because of being as COVID compliant as we can possibly be, it was really important that we are educating, so we put everything into one newspaper. She speaks. We're speaking today.
Hi, I'm Megan Olson, and this is my mom, Jean Olson, and she's with the American Association for University Women, and we're here to celebrate 100 years of women's suffrage. On this day, it was voted on to give women the right to vote. And we're standing next to a poster of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who's one of my favorite suffragists. She was Susan B. Anthony's bestie, and together they pretty much forged the women's suffrage movement. And her daughter, Harriet Blatch, was also a big part of the suffrage movement. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was actually educated by her father, who was a judge, which was illegal at the time. So she learned a lot about law and what she could and could not do when it came to fighting for women's right to vote. She was pretty unconventional in what she did. Susan B. Anthony was a little more straightforward, but Elizabeth Cady Stanton liked to push boundaries. And so she would actually get arrested on purpose so that she could get suffrage on the front page news. And she was doing that well into her 70s. One of the ways she would get arrested is when it was election time. She would actually show up to vote, which was illegal for women to do so. And so, of course, that would get her on the front page news. Another thing she did was write a book called The Women's Bible, which was so incredibly controversial that she butted heads with some other women suffragists at the time. And she said outlandish things in her book, like mixed race marriages should be legalized, that kind of thing. And that was back in the mid-1800s. She also wrote one of the greatest manifestos in history, which was in response to the Declaration of Independence. Nowhere in the Declaration of Independence does it talk about women and their rights, so she wrote the Declaration of Sentiments and Resolutions, and she presented it to Congress, basically saying, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites, and these are all the things going on with women, and we demand a resolution to these complaints.
Hi, my name is Jean Walter. I've been with the American Association of University Women since 2012. I've been with the League of Women Voters since 1982, and I am thrilled to be here today. I can't imagine a world in which I don't have the right to vote. How we vote determines how we live our lives. So the fact that the women have only had the vote since 1920, and sometimes I think how lucky we are that people way back then decided, okay, this is worth working for, this is worth fighting for. I'm standing next to the display for Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth gave a women's rights speech back in 1851 that is still being quoted today. A really amazing woman. She stuck with it her entire life. She's the reason that eventually we had success in 1920 at getting the right for all women to vote.
Well, children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women at the North all talking about rights, the white men will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman?
I'm Ross Park. I'm from the League of Women Voters here locally. I'm very glad to be here today, obviously honoring the day that we have as far as women's suffrage is concerned. It's a very important day for men as far as women as well, I believe, because it has to do with the right to vote. And the right to vote is the, if you will, the penultimate as far as the jobs that we have, both in AAUW as well as in the League of Women Voters.
Hi, I'm Julie Westendorf, and I'm a La Plata County Commissioner. I just want to thank the League for having brought this forward and really highlighting the importance of the 100th anniversary of women in the United States getting the right to vote. I'm standing here beside Carrie, Chapman, Catt. She was the founder of the League of Women Voters, as well as a big advocate for suffrage for women and the passing of the 19th Amendment. And this whole anniversary month has got me thinking about my grandmother, who was the first generation of women able to vote when they came of age. But then I think about the women in my great aunts that I actually knew who didn't vote and weren't able to vote when they were 18 years old. And part of me really makes that connection that people I knew, women I knew, weren't allowed to vote. And I never asked them about it, never even thought about it. I think that was a missed opportunity, but it also really connects with me with the privilege it is to vote. It's a right for sure, but it's also a privilege, and it's something we should not let go by.
Hello, I'm Bernadine DeClerk Cox, a longtime member of AAUW, almost 20 years, and especially this program that Catherine Burgess put together for the Lifelong Learning Series at Fort Lewis College. I was the voice for Carrie, Chapman, Catt.
My name's Faye Schrater. I'm with the American Association of University Women, who partnered with the League of Women Voters to put on this event and to celebrate the centennial. When we first started this project, one of our members, actually our board member, Marcy Jung, said, we've got to get diversity into this. So it's like, yes, okay. So I did a lot of research that everyone knows Cherry Chapman Catt and Alice Paul and Susan B. Anthony and Lucretia Mott. What most of us, at least white women, did not know were the black women suffragists and the incredible barriers that they were up against and how strong they were. And Ida B. Wells is actually one of my favorites. And I'm going to step aside here and I'm going to read her quote, which says, "I'd rather go down in history as one lone Negro who dared to tell the government that it had done a dastardly thing than to save my skin by taking back what I said." Okay? That statement is as true today as it was the day that Ida B. Wells said it. It's true not only for black women and Latinas and Asian Americans, it's also true for white women, because we also are under pressures to submit to the patriarchy. I'll just go ahead and say it. We have the right to vote. We have to keep it. We have to vote. We have to get out the vote. We have to support our black sisters, our Asian American sisters, our Native American sisters who weren't even declared citizens until 1962. So let's do this, people.
A really important fact for today's event is across the United States, data shows more women are voting than men now. In Colorado, we have approximately 1.7 million women registered to vote and 1.6 million men.